Hey guys, Alex Tomaszewska here, doing the interview tonight. It's interview night. Well, normally, I do them on Wednesdays, but my guest couldn't do it Wednesday, so we're doing it Friday evening, and I hope you're going to join. I know it's, Friday night is beer night. Believe me, it is also for me. But still, this is going to be fun.
Hey!
Brilliant. That.
Technology hasn't let me down. I've managed to join you.
Well, for once, that's not very common to not let us down. Yay!
That means
Fantastic to
because I was guided by you. All credit to you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, right, and we did the test. So, but anyway, it doesn't always go as smoothly. So, really great, fantastic to have you here.
Good to
I
have you.
didn't
Thank
even
you.
have to sing, to entertain, which is brilliant. Yeah, especially for the audience. Okay, we got people coming on perfectly joining. Right. Okay. So first of all, let me quickly introduce you. So Kim is. I'm gonna read this. Sorry. So Kim is a leading intuitive coach, bringing professional and executive women home to their true nature, so that they can create what they truly want naturally and with ease. And that's why we're going to be talking about female leadership at the end. But Kim also has a fantastic story, a journey behind her, because she used to be a solicitor for 20 years, and then she decided to make a move into something completely new. So I would love to hear that story. Hey, Marianne. Hey, all other people who said hey in the meantime. So Kim here intends to bring love to the boardroom. Love to the boardroom. I really love that. Changing the face of business today so that everybody wins without compromising either well-being or profit. And Kim has been featured in national newspapers. She's from UK, online professional publications, BBC, and local radio. Woohoo! Yeah, awesome. Right, fantastic. So, the first thing also, which we do, is code cracking. So, code cracking, guys, you know what code cracking is already. So, I cracked the personality of Kim, and give us a shout over there if you have the same personality code as Kim, and I will give you little traits of cool personality in her journey throughout the interview. So, Kim's personality code is this: she's a nurturer. For starters, that's probably why she brings love to the boardroom. Okay, I'm only guessing. And the second is action, which made her probably quit her job and do something else when she realized that wasn't the thing that she wanted. Then we got knowledge, and then we got the blueprint. So systems and processes probably the your least seen personality trait. Not sure about that because you are in a retreat place right now, right?
Yes, I am.
So, so Kim also runs retreats for women and does one-on-one coaching, and we're going to give you a link to her website after the interview. Hey, Steve, thank you so much. Okay, so Martin has the same code. Who else has the same personality code? If you haven't cracked your personality code, let me just post the link in there to crack your personality code very quickly. But sorry, I'm gonna put the link in there after we're done with the interview. Then when I distract you, okay? Yeah, but you can also find it on my newsfeed. Right. So that was the most talking that I'm gonna do tonight, hopefully. And now it's off to you, Kim. So my first question, as usual, is what was your first job ever?
My first job ever. I was a Saturday girl in a shoe shop when I was about 15, I think 14 or 15. I used to work in the shoe shop on a Saturday just for a bit of pocket money.
Awesome.
That's
Only
it.
Saturday. Was it like a family shop?
No. It was, I was doing my exams and I just wanted a bit of spending money, really. So I went out and found myself a job,
That was
measuring
awesome.
people's feet and handling a lot of very smelly feet, I have to say.
Wow, yeah, that's a nice start.
Yeah.
Well, Rockefeller was a shoe shiner, right? At first, so you never know when you start like that.
You never know. That was a few years ago, I have to confess.
Well, it still leaves a mark, I guess. And Stephanie says she was doing the same thing, I think. Stephanie, were you working in a shoe store as well? That is really incredible. Oh. Okay, so that's the first job. And then what happened? Like you were selecting what to do with your life at the end of your teenage years.
Yeah, when I left school, I went to university. I studied law at university, and I just followed the obvious natural progression, which was to become a lawyer. In England, we call them a solicitor. There's two types of lawyers in England. There's a solicitor and a barrister. So I chose to be a solicitor, which meant I worked in an office most of the time.
Uh-huh. Okay, then the barrister goes to court.
Goes to court most of the time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, what was it? So did you like the job? I mean, you stayed there 20 years. So I'm assuming it must have been fun, rewarding. What made you choose it, like in the first place, maybe even?
Do you know, in the first place, I think I kind of fell into it. I was encouraged by my dad to look at options, and he encouraged me to go to read books and go along to various go to court and sit in the public gallery. So I used to go to watch different trials in different local courts, which I actually really enjoyed. This is all when I was at school. And I watched legal programs on the TV, you know, like imitation courtroom drama type programs. And I was interested. Didn't know whether that's what I wanted to do, but I decided to try it out. So yes, I went to read law at university, and I loved it. When I first joined the profession, I felt like I was on a very steep learning curve, and so, you know, with challenges and lots of learning. So yeah, I loved it to start with. Didn't love it forever. I did certainly love it for the first few years, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, but you stayed for 20 years. I'm assuming there was family obligations, etc.
I actually shouldn't have stayed in it for 20 years. I was a bit unhappy, and back then I didn't know what I know now. And what I used to do to kind of relieve the boredom or the tension was to change jobs every 2 or 3 years. So I would work at a job, and when I first started a new firm, it would be very exciting and different, lots of new people to meet, new clients to become familiar with, new case files to deal with. And so that was stimulating and enjoyable. And I did lose the enthusiasm after some time. That's the red, is it?
That's the red. That's the red. I am the same. Like new projects, new people, woohoo, enthusiasm, and then it kind of dies.
It died. It died a bit of a death. So then I would reinvigorate my enthusiasm by finding another job elsewhere. Now, often it wasn't actually that I was necessarily looking for another job, but it would come to me and I would take it. So I was headhunted a couple of times. A couple of times I took an opportunity to go and travel for a few months and then come back into the profession. And another occasion I took maternity leave. So I kind of managed to chop up the course of my career without it being too disruptive. But really, it wasn't until I got into my late 30s, early 40s, or probably in my 40s actually, that I realized I was just running away rather than facing it head on. I was doing the easy option to kind of dive out and then come back in again, rather than really sitting back and examining, was it really what I wanted to do? And the time I did that was when I was made redundant. Until then, I just kind of lurched from job to job. And, you know, but you see, the thing is, I was good at being a lawyer. And I have to say, my last job, where, in fact, the job that I was made redundant from, I was with them for the longest period of any of my other jobs. It was like over 6 years I worked for that company. And I did a full transformation within my time there. In fact, I've written about this. I've written a piece that's on my website called "It's All in You," which weaves in the learning about that with my own career story. Same pattern. Started well, went into a slump, realized that actually the only thing that I needed to deal with was me, turned it around, came up the other side. And so even though nothing in my job had changed in terms of my boss, my colleagues, my clients, the type of work I did, the hours I worked, all that, everything about me changed and my experience of the job changed. So I kind of turned it around and stayed with them longer, and then they made me redundant after a year or two after that. So that then was my opportunity to really examine what I was doing, why I was doing it, and whether actually I would be better off doing something else. So that's what led me onto the path I'm on now. And that was 10 years ago.
Right. So I would like to. I had another thing on my mind. What got you to change your attitude towards your job when you were still doing that? Did something happen in there? I like to pinpoint the moments, so that people also realize that they have this moment right now in their life, and maybe there's an opportunity in there too. So, what happened so that made you change your attitude?
Interesting, because I credit myself as being a fairly intelligent person, but I think in some ways I'm a bit of a slow learner because I buried my head in the sand like an ostrich, But what I did do, I was involved even while I was a lawyer with a part-time network marketing company. I worked on the side as in the network marketing, multi-level marketing, and through that experience, I was introduced to personal development. Now, personal development as a concept, I'd never even heard of before. I didn't know what it was, but they were very encouraging. They encouraged everybody to embrace personal development. And the more and more I got into that, the more I realized that it wasn't about the circumstances outside of me. It was about what was happening in here that was going to shape my experience of life. So I think it was a gradual process of acknowledgement of that, and then I thought, what, I've got to give it a go.
Right. This is what they do. So you were kind of forced, because you joined the company, and then they told you this is the thing to do, and then you realized you started to realize things because you started to do personal development. That's brilliant. Right. That's how things always happen, really, because you need to look inside, and we're not taught that until we start doing some personal development. And
absolutely.
I think that was great.
We'd live in such a different world, wouldn't we, if we were all taught that from a young age at school, even. But especially as a lawyer, the culture is there's someone else to blame. You've got to defend your client or fight for your client all the time. So it's very tempting to look outside of you or your client or the case you're dealing with for someone to blame. And of course, I was in that environment all the time as well. So I don't think I naturally fell into taking responsibility. I think it was something I learned to do through my exposure to personal development.
Brilliant, fantastic. Because you're constantly at war, so it's either you win or they win, and it's cost for them.
Often, I mean, my specialist area of law was commercial property, which isn't particularly contentious. It doesn't necessarily involve going to court. In fact, very rarely. But even then, you still have to. You're basically standing up for your client, making sure that your client's needs and wishes are resolved. And there's a lot of negotiating, and you fight for that clause to go in that way, and that, So.
Beautiful. Okay, and then you were made redundant, which also happened to me. And then you said the Viltro thing, that it was an opportunity. But I want to ask you, how did you feel then? Did you already feel like that day, oh, it's an opportunity?
No.
Or did you feel down? And then how did you come, to the conclusion that it's an opportunity? What happened there?
Leading up to it, because there were a lot of rumours going around the office that change was afoot. We just didn't know what was going to happen or whether it would happen. But the country had already fallen into recession. The credit crunch, the financial crisis of 2008, 2009 was well underway. And so the rumours were flying around the office, which was making everybody nervous. So I was a little bit nervous, but I didn't really think that anything would happen. So when I was actually given the notice that I was going to be affected personally, because the company needed to restructure, then I don't know, I just felt sick in my stomach, to be honest. Bit very fearful, bit panicky, like lost. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I went home that evening just like in a bit of a daze. To be honest, it was very, very difficult because I was a single parent, I had a young daughter, I needed to feed and clothe and myself, and bills to pay, and so on. So yeah, it was very, very difficult, and that did last for maybe a day or two. And very quickly I turned it around because I thought, wow, this is a gift. Actually, I've got an opportunity, as you said, now to reevaluate the direction I'm taking, what I'm going to do with my life. And it was still a bit scary because it was in the unknown. I didn't know what was coming forward. But then I completely changed my approach and thought, now I've got this opportunity. What am I going to do with it? And I didn't have the answer to that question, but what I did have was the desire and the resources to explore what I might do next.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's so beautiful. So basically, possibly your red spot caught up with you and said, okay, let's have fun. This is exciting. This is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's explore this.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay. So so how did you become a coach? What happened there?
Well, I decided, because I kind of reevaluated my value system and everything about me. And I thought, this time in my life, it's time for me to give back. I want to give back. I didn't know what that meant. So I did some counseling training, and I did some coaching training. And in the end, I thought, you know what? It's coaching that really resonates with me because that supports people going forward. Whereas counseling tends to be backwards looking in a way, kind of making peace with the past. And I really wanted to take people to the next stage, the next level, the next point in their life, whatever that was. So that's why I chose coaching.
Fantastic. And just moved on from there. So that's great. And then you decided, so we're going to move slowly to the women in leadership naturally. So what made you choose to work with women and to work around leadership? Because that's like, we have the same outlook, I believe, on the female leadership, that you can be very feminine and you should be using your feminine traits to be a leader as opposed to just chasing what men are doing and being all testosterone driven, etc. So why did you decide to go there? Like, what was the big why?
This is actually a really great question, and there's not a simple answer. I don't know how long you've got. You see, at first, when I first started coaching, I was coaching everybody, men, women, and younger people as well. And I didn't know about specializing. I just knew that I wanted to make a difference, and I did. And I still work with men even now. But what has happened over the last year is that I've been really diving deep, digging deep, and really asking my own intuition exactly who I'm here to serve and what I'm here to do and what it is I have to offer. And so, to be honest, the answer to your question is that it's relatively recent. I'd say within the last year that my intuition has guided me to work with professional and executive women, which I actually never really wanted to do. But my intuition is leading me in that direction. And who am I to argue with such a powerful inner navigation system as my intuition? My intuition always knows best. So I'm now pursuing that path. So it's quite a recent development to be overtly inviting women to work with me. Until now, it's been pretty much, well, both men and women.
Fantastic. And this is, I think, what you teach also, to trust you teach them how to trust their intuition. So
absolutely.
Maybe after coaching with you, I understand they stay often at the same job, but they switch their viewpoint on it. It's not like they quit and start doing something new. Most cases, right? So they become leaders.
They can do.
And they are just in accordance throughout their whole body with themselves, right?
The key thing with everybody I work with is to establish what's true for them and who they are and what their talents and gifts are and what their purpose in life is. And for many people, it does involve change, but for others it doesn't. It does involve, as indeed happened with me in my last legal job that I described, it doesn't involve leaving. It just involves stepping up into being the whole, true, powerful person that you are. By powerful, I don't mean dominating, fighting, suppressing other people. I mean to really be accessing the fullness of your own gifts and talents, and being the full expression of those in the world. So there's no, I never presuppose what the outcome of the coaching is going to be. It's always focused on drawing the best out of the person, and then trusting or accessing their intuition and finding out where that's going to take them, which is an exciting journey because you don't always know. In fact, you very rarely know in advance what that's going to be.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the whole point, I think, of coaching, right? It's not that we're not in charge. We're not the puppet masters saying, "Oh yeah, you're gonna go that way."
The thing is, very very often you can be on a course which might be very close to the thing that you want to be doing or should be doing, but you might be just 1 degree off. And so it's in the nuance, it's in the subtleties, it's in the whisper of our intuition that we really get to hear the true direction that we should be taking.
So if somebody stays at their old company, for example, and but they are now working from a point of intuition, I'm assuming it's got a lot of impact on your private life as well, naturally, because you change it. When you change your whole body and spirit and mentality changes, everything changes, right? But what do they do then usually? Do they like take a new approach to their current job, or do they take another position in this company, or do they become leaders, take leadership positions, have the courage to step up maybe? Like what are the biggest breakthroughs when you stay at the same job?
I'll say yes, yes, and yes to everything you've said, but absolutely it's about the courage, isn't it? Because first of all, you have to identify what's true for you, but then have the courage to follow through with that. Because often it doesn't make sense.
Yes, that's what I teach too. Yeah, it's incredible.
There's no one rule. There's no one size fits all. It's just about assessing and then being confident in pursuing what's true for you. But very, very, in fact, none of my clients stay the same. That's true. They might stay in the same environment with the same organization, but they'll be shifting either within the same role to a more elevated authority, perhaps, or responsibility, or they might make a sideways move. One client of mine, who is actually a lawyer, she stayed in her organization for a while. She has now left it actually, but she stayed in the same organization, but she was taking on more people roles in terms of looking after the people at the place she worked, in terms of like well-being and mental health and that sort of thing. So she was in the right, it wasn't so much about the company she was at, but the role she was performing within that company. It was much more aligned with where the future direction she then wanted to take that we established. So yeah, you can't, there's no generalization involved here with intuition.
Absolutely. No, there isn't. I was just wondering because I do believe it's possible if you're thinking you're lost. Thanks, Steve. Thinking you're lost, it doesn't mean then you're going to have to change your job. You may just find yourself within the job and just change your perspective, and everything can change for you. So
absolutely,
and that's a good outcome.
100%.
Losing subject matter experts is a huge problem for companies and mental sicknesses as well, right? Like depression. Like I got depressed too. If companies were introducing these programs, whether they care of mental health of employees, what they need to understand is that they might keep the employees and even create a better setup.
Absolutely, it's a huge area now, isn't it? And so needed. And if you can support people just to, like you talk about mindset, to shift their mindset, that can change everything. Nothing like I described with my own experience. Nothing else around me changed in that last job I had. except me. And then my whole experience and the firm and the value they got out of me completely changed for the better. It's all in us.
It is. That's beautiful. Okay, so maybe to end, a powerful woman, a powerful leader. Do you have anybody in mind? Do you have examples like of somebody that is famous that we could know?
You know, there is a lady who immediately springs to mind as you're asking me that question, who's been in the news a couple of times lately, who I don't know much about her, but she seems to me to be the epitome of, or to epitomize, a really powerful feminine leader. And that is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern.
I knew it. I posted about it a couple of days ago.
Did you?
Yes, she's awesome.
She's a phenomenal leader who hasn't lost herself in her position. And she's remaining, she seems to me to be remaining true to herself. And she's the full expression of herself. And as such, when you embody who you truly are, then you actually carry other people along with you. So it's not about, especially as for a woman, it's not about trying to be a man or trying to step into the shoes of a man and do things the way that men do. It's about being you and who you are, and then the full and powerful expression of that. And I believe that that's what she does really absolutely beautifully and to great effect. And of course it must be, because that's why she's getting noticed now around the world. So I want to watch her more. Sorry,
she's very young. She had a baby because that's what was when I noticed her. Maybe it was like a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah,
she was the prime minister.
Yeah,
and she was working, on her computer and had a baby. And I read an article then about her and her husband. They are just like a normal couple, like they buy stuff at Gap, etc., which is also brilliant because this is now they represent the people really, and not somebody who's living like completely detached from what normal world looks like.
Absolutely.
And her new politics are incredible. So that I think is a fantastic example. And
new paradigm. It's all about new paradigms, and I would really love to see more of that in the world. I definitely wanted to pay more attention if I can to what she's doing. We will. Well, I think we're in a time of change, and so
yes, absolutely. These female leaders will create a shift because women need to see what is possible, that you can do everything with empathy and love, and your love in the boardroom.
Love in the boardroom.
Right?
That's exactly right. You see, she's not anti-men. Some men feel threatened by women who are rising. Yeah. But I don't believe that she is a threat to any man. She's just doing what's true for her in her way, in her powerful way. And we need to work together in collaboration, celebrating our differences, but also maximizing our own strengths and complementing each other, working in harmony and synergy. And that's partly what I mean by love in the boardroom. It's not about all of us being the same or trying to pretend to be somebody we're not. Some people wear a mask thinking they have to be seen or perceived by others in a certain way for them to succeed. It's so not true. It's so not true.
Yeah. Especially women, young women below 30. I used to also, wonder, how should I be? Especially when you face some sort of sexism, for example, or you're discriminated because of your age. Who should I be in this situation? What's the right way to be a leader? Are they going to follow me? I've been a leader for all my life, and I've led men and women. I guess. And there's always the question: make you a leader, become a leader. Are they going to follow me?
Yeah.
If I'm not doing full testosterone, and so on. And girls tend to, instead of just being themselves, we tend to ask, who should I be?
Yes, I did. For a lot of my life, I did the same thing. And it's devastating, actually. The effects of doing that over a prolonged period of time are devastating.
Yeah.
It's only really in the last few years I've started to really realize who I actually am and to celebrate that. and to embody that fully. And I'm not even sure if I still do it fully. I'm a work in progress. We all are, perhaps to some degree or other.
Absolutely, we are.
But now that I do this much more than I've ever done in my life before, I am the happiest, the most fulfilled, and I would say the most successful than I've ever been. Why on earth I didn't know about this 40 years ago? I don't know. It's a shame.
It takes us a while. It takes us a while, but it's so fantastic to have other women who have done it, who maybe have had a little bit more courage or had a mentor or a coach who made it through with them. And then we want to give back. I am giving back as well. It's the same. It's the same thing. We need to pull other women together to reach the standards of self-esteem.
And I think that's right. You can't. You pull a rope. You don't push it, don't you? It's about bringing people with you, showing them what they can do, what they're capable of. And you see, I think having somebody else to believe in you when you can't see it for yourself is of massive, massive value. I have a coach of my own, and she's a lady, but she's phenomenal. And I gain so much from having that support, even though I now coach people as well. So I think having support is vital, because there's also so much about ourselves that we don't see, both that are positive, but also things that are getting in our way, that are holding us back, things we carry in our unconscious. We often don't see for ourselves. And it takes somebody who we trust to point it out to us in a very honest and direct way. And when we're ready to hear that, that's when things can change. And those are not things that you would actually want to acknowledge for yourself. It's like our dark side, we don't want to acknowledge it.
That is so true. I had such a problem with criticism. I couldn't handle any criticism. And starting your business, if you're like that, my ex-boyfriend was looking at me saying, Alex, what are you doing? You're never going to handle this. But he was saying it in a good way, and I knew I did my personal development. It was very recent, and I knew what to expect. And nothing of the bad stuff that I was possibly expecting ever happened. And the support is incredible. I didn't get support from the people, that normally are my followers. They are able to lift us up. It's so incredible. The community. We create a community, be leaders of that, and show people the way we're leading, authentic, kind, loving. They're just gonna give us so much back in return. I've already gotten so much from my community. It's absolutely vital.
It's so true. I really 100% agree with you, because you see, for any leader to be a strong leader, you first have to be able to lead yourself. And when you can lead yourself, which means knowing who you are and acknowledging your failings as well as your strengths, and being accepting of who you are, the truth of who you are, then you're unstoppable. And that's when other people are going to follow you, and they'll rise up with you. So
right. And 100%. It's okay to be vulnerable and to say, okay, I suck at this. I don't know how to do this. Help me.
Yeah.
Right. I need to make a decision. I am unable to make this decision. It's okay. People respect that. People value that. Ask you questions. That's what they're there for. They're your specialists.
I'm sure you're familiar with Brené Brown. She talks a lot about vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest strengths that we can have. The reason we often pretend to be someone we're not is because we're afraid to be vulnerable, because we think it's going to mean something about us. People are going to judge us. People are going to not give us promotion, or not going to like us, or whatever it is. But actually, when you are vulnerable and ask for help if you need it, for example, that's when you'll be amazed to find that people connect with you better, and you're more likely to actually achieve what you want to achieve. Yes. That's just one aspect of vulnerability, but it's a big area. Very important.
And it's so difficult to be vulnerable, it's like, and we are just hiding it like in the middle of the onion, which has so many layers on it, and when you get down to it, you hide it even from yourself. It's just so beautiful when people start reaching down there. And it's one thing to allow yourself to see your vulnerability, vulnerability and be who you are is another thing to show to others.
Yes.
There's another barrier
It's the
over there as
next
well.
step.
Yeah. It's a beautiful process. Oh, fantastic! This was really great, Kim. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this with me. It's super important topic for me, and I hope young girls around the world are going to watch it one day or another and start doing their own thing and stop asking questions about who they want to be, who they should be, and just be themselves and crush everything.
That's the key, always. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Oh, if I may ask you, put the link to your website over there in the comments, so that
Sure.
People can go over there. And there's a freebie. What is it called? It's an audio recording.
I've got my website. I'll put it in the comments as well. My website is consciouschoiceacademy.com, and if you just click on that, go to the homepage. There's a link where you can download. In fact, both are now available. I have an audio and also a PDF transcript version of my piece called "It's All in You." I mentioned it, I think, at the beginning of our chat. It's all in you. So go to my website and you can access that. And that awesome. Talks about being, everything being in us, but also I'm weaving it in with my own career story in the process, so you get the full picture.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching as well. Thanks for everybody for taking the time on a Friday evening. I know it's your time now. Thanks for staying with us. It was fantastic. And well, good luck with everything, Kim. Good luck on this new path which you're paving. I think it's already pretty well paved.
Oh yeah, it is.
Anyway, and in your endeavor.
And thanks, Alex, so much for inviting me. It's lovely to chat with you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye, guys.